I can see your screen now. So if you're ready, it's good to start your presentation today.
Okay. Um, Hi everyone. I'm Jihwan from KAIST. Today I'm going to introduce the paper SimPO, Simple Preference Optimization with a reward-free reward, a reference-free reward, which is published in NeurIPS 2024. The SimPO is one of the variation of DPO, which is a simple and effective preference optimization algorithm. First, I will provide a brief background on preference optimization. I think I covered this background in my previous presentation regarding yeah about this. So I'll try to explain it more simply. Yeah, so currently the preference optimization is the final stage of LLM training. As you can see in the bar chart, there are three steps in LLM training: pre-training, SFT, and preference optimization. The bar length indicates the amount of training cost required for each stage. First, pre-training refers to training a language model on a massive unlabeled corpus to learn general language patterns. It typically done in an unsupervised manner, and it requires a lot of training cost. Next, supervised fine-tuning, SFT, takes the pre-trained model and refines it on a labeled dataset. It typically with task-specific or the instruction-based supervision. And finally, preference optimization aligns the model more closely with human preferences by increasing the likelihood or preferred responses. It requires a very small amount of training cost compared to pre-training. The example of chosen and rejected data is shown in the middle figure. When using GPT, when you enter the prompt, you may be asked which of two answers you prefer. At this time, the answer you selected becomes highlighted in green, and the answer you did not select becomes highlighted in red. So using this information about chosen and rejected dataset, we can make LLM more aligned with humans. So this is the brief concept of preference optimization. And reinforcement learning from human feedback, RLHF, was an initial approach to optimizing language models using human preference data. As shown in the middle figure, we trained the reward model using maximum likelihood estimation. The reward model outputs float values that represent the preference of humans. High reward means high preference, and low reward means low preference. Consequently, the goal of this model is to calculate how much data is preferred on human basis. After training the reward model, it's time to train the language model using reinforcement learning. The trained reward model evaluates the current language model policy by assigning rewards to generated responses. Using proximal policy optimization, PPO, or similar reinforcement learning algorithms, the language model policy is updated to generate higher quality responses. In summary, there are two steps in RLHF. The first step is to train the real model using SFT. And the second step is to train the policy model using reinforcement learning. And instead of RLHF, direct preference optimization, DPO, reformulates the real modeling and reinforcement learning paces to a single optimization problem. While DPO essentially follows the same loss function under with the RLHF, DPO is a real model-free approach that aligns the SFT model directly with the preference data. The figure shows the direct preference optimization. And if you examine the loss function of DPO, it calculates the implicit reward using the model that will be trained. As highlighted in orange, the model is trained to increase the probability of generating the chosen data while reducing the probability of generating the rejected data. In addition, as highlighted in green, a reference model term is added to prevent the model from drifting too far. So this acts as a KL divergence regularization, encouraging the updated model to stay close to the reference model. To sum up, if we use DPO, we can directly fine-tune the language model using preference data without a real model. And now let's see the motivation of this paper. In this section, the authors point out the key limitation of DPO. They argue that there exists a discrepancy between the real used for training and the model's actual generation behavior. On the left, they show the DPO loss, which optimize the log ratio of the chosen and rejected outputs based on the reference model. The reward is computed using this ratio, and the model is trained to prefer outputs with higher reward. However, the authors emphasize that the actual generation behavior depends on the length normalized likelihood, which introduces a mismatch. Even if the reward prefers chosen data over rejected data, the model may still assign a higher generation probability to rejected data. To support this claim, they provide a contingency table shown on the right. In particular, the top right cell shows a large number of cases where the chosen rewards are greater than the rejected ones, but the model prefers rejected outcomes in the generation process. To put it simply, DPO does not use the actual effective reward that aligns with their preference during training. Based on this discrepancy, the authors argue for a better alignment between reward-based training and generation behavior. So they propose simple preference optimization to solve this discrepancy of DPO. The main contribution of this paper is that SimPO revises the DPO loss and propose a new loss function to improve preference optimization and computational efficiency. Now let's see how they revise the loss function. Firstly, the authors highlight length normalization as a key factor in SimPO's reward formulation. As shown in the equation 3, they start by defining the average log likelihood over the response, normalized by its length. This is constant with what DPO implicitly prefers. Then equation 4, they define the SimPO reward function by incorporating by hyperparameter beta while keeping the length normalized structure. The key idea is here that removing length normalization causes the model to favor longer responses, which often leads to verbosity without improving quality. So to avoid this, the authors argue that normalizing the reward by sequence length is crucial to ensure fair comparisons between response of different lengths. They also note that the scaling term beta allows further control over reward magnitude without disrupting this normalization. In addition to length normalization, the authors propose a second key factor in SimPO, the target reward margin, denoted as gamma. As shown in equation 5, the model estimates the probability that chosen response is preferred over the rejected response based on the difference in reward scores. Importantly, they subtract a margin gamma, which serves as a threshold that must be exceeded for the model to confidently prefer the chosen. Equation 6 shows how this margin is integrated into SimPO's loss. The reward is computed in length normalized form and then compared with the margin adjusted gap. According to authors, this target reward margin encourages a clear separation between good and bad responses. Additionally, since SimPO directly uses this generation likelihood for reward computation, it does not require a separate reference model, which reduces training cost and complexity. So to summarize, the author proposed simple preference optimization that avoids using a reference model. On the left, we can see the DPO loss, which depends on the reference model to compute the reward, as highlighted in red. On the right, SimPO replaces this with a reference-free formulation, relying only the low likelihoods of the chosen and rejected responses from the policy model itself. The authors highlight three key benefits of SimPO. First, simplicity. SimPO does not require a reference model, which makes it more lightweight and easier to implement compared to the DPO. And second, they report a significant performance advantage. SimPO outperforms DPO and its recent variants in various benchmarks. And finally, minimal length exploitation. SimPO does not significantly increase response length, which helps prevent verbosity and maintains the quality of generated text. So to sum up, these properties make SimPO a better alternative to existing preference optimization method. Now let's see the experimental setup. This slide describes the model families and training setups used in the experiments. The authors use two model families, Llama 3 8 billion and Mistral 7 billion. There are two different setups, base and instruct. In the base setup, they train an SFT model from scratch using UltraChat 200K, and then perform preference optimization using the Ultra feedback dataset. On the other hand, the instruct setup uses pre-trained instruction-tuned models such as Llama 3 instruct and Mistral instruct. These models are generally stronger than the base model, but their training details are not publicly available. So to reduce the distribution mismatch between training and inference, the authors regenerate preference data using the same SFT model, making this setting closer to an on-policy scenario. Specifically, for each prompt, they generate 5 responses with temperature 0.8, and then use pair RM to pick the best and worst responses. Here, the pair RM means external reward model. Finally, they report of tuning hyperparameters is crucial for SimPO. And they recommended setting beta between 2 and 2.5 and gamma between 0.5 and 1.5. And this slide summarizes the evaluation datasets used in the paper. The authors evaluate the models on 3 popular benchmarks: Alpaca Eval 2, Arena Halt, and MT-Bench. Each benchmark differs slightly in its evaluation protocol. Alpaca 2 contains 805 prompts and uses GPT-4 Turbo as a both baseline and judge. Responses are compared using pairwise scoring, and both low win rate and length controlled win rate are reported. Secondly, Arena Hard has 500 examples and uses GPT-4 as a baseline. It also uses pairwise comparison and only uses the win rate only. And the empty bench consists of 80 prompts, and there are no explicit baseline, and GPT-4 Turbo serves as judges. Here responses are rated on 1 to 10 scale using single answer scoring. The table below clarifies the meaning of each column. So the first number of examples means the tested size. And the baseline models means the reference model used for comparison. The evaluated models' responses are compared against this baseline. And judge model means the model used to access and score the responses. And scoring type means the method used to evaluate responses, either pairwise comparison or single answer scoring. And lastly, metering means the type of score reported. So these benchmarks cover both quantitative metrics and human-aligned comparisons, allowing for a broad evaluation of the model performance. And this slide summarizes the baseline method used for comparison in the experiments. The authors compared SimPO against 8 existing preference optimization methods, including classic and recent approaches. For example, RRHF and SLEEK-HF, which are based on response level reward filtering, and DPO, which is one of the most widely used reference-based methods. And other variants, such as IPO, CPO, KTO, ORPO, which are built upon the DPO formulation with additional regularization or KL constraints. So each method has its own objective formulation, typically involving low likelihood terms for the chosen and rejected responses. We can easily implement this preference optimization method using the open source library. The link is here posted on the top. Now let's see the experiment result. This slide presents the main experiment result comparing SimPO to 8 baseline methods. The author evaluate all methods on 3 benchmarks: alpaca eval 2, arena halt, and empty bench using 4 different setups: Mistral base, Mistral instruct, Llama 3 base, Llama 3 instruct. The upper table shows the Mistral series, and the lower table shows the Llama series. As we can see in all cases, SimPO achieves the best or near best scores across all benchmarks. For example, in the Mistral base setup, SimPO achieves 21.5% win rate score on alpaca eval 2, which is significantly higher than the best baseline RDPO at 70.4%. In the case of Llama 3, SimPO achieves 44% on a win rate and 50.5% win rate on the arena halt. Also, this trend is consistent across all configurations. And these slides present an evaluation study that examines 2 key design choices in SimPO. First, length normalization, and the second, target reward margin gamma. At the top, we have a recap of the SimPO loss, which includes both the length normalization and the reward margin term. In this study, the authors test what happens when we removed each component. First, by removing length normalization, and second, by setting gamma to 0, effectively removing the reward margin. Examining the Mistral base setting, we observed that removing length normalization results in a significant decrease in win rate. So for instance, on alpaca eval 2, the win rate drops from 21.5% to 11.8%. Similarly, removing the margin also degrades performance. The trend is consistent in the mutual instruct setting as well. Both modifications decrease performance compared to the full SimPO. This result clearly shows that both length normalization and reward margin are essentially to SimPO's effectiveness. Without them, performance falls closer to that of the DPO or worse. To sum up, this ablation study shows the SimPO's strong performance comes from the combination of the both reward normalization and margin-based separation. And this slides analyze the effect of normalization, length normalization in the SimPO reward formulation. On the top right, we again shows the SimPO loss, where both chosen and rejected responses are normalized by their lengths. The left figure A shows how reward scores vary based on the length difference between the chosen and rejected responses. As you can see, our SimPO, as colored in blue, maintains a consistent reward margin across different lengths, while SimPO without length normalization, as colored in red, shows strong length bias. And in the middle plot B, we look at the correlation between response length and log probability under SimPO. The correlation is very low. It's about 0.34, suggesting that SimPO is relatively free from length bias. But as we can see in the right plot C, we remove here the length normalization. The correlation jumps to 0.82. It means that longer responses are favored even if they aren't better. So this study shows that length normalization is critical for stable and fair reward learning and helps prevent the model from generating unnecessary long outputs. And this slide presents an empirical study of the target reward margin, gamma, used in SimPO. As shown in the recap above, gamma is subtracted from the reward difference in the SimPO loss and controls how confidently the model should prefer the chosen response. In the left plot A, we can see how varying gamma affects performance on alpaca eval 2, as colored in red. Increasing gamma leads to a higher reward accuracy, as colored in blue, but the win rate score is peaks around gamma equal 1.6 and then drops. This suggests that although enforcing a larger margin improves reward separation, it can decrease generation quality on win rate if gamma is too large. And the middle plot B shows the distribution of reward differences. As gamma increases, the curves flatten and shift, indicating that the reward separation becomes broader but less distinct. And the right plot C shows the distribution of low likelihoods on the chosen responses. Again, we see that increasing gamma reduces the average log probability of the chosen, which means the model is becoming less confident what it generates. In summary, the authors argued that there is a trade-off between enforcing reward margin, maintaining a high likelihood of good chosen outputs. So therefore, gamma must be tuned carefully to strike a balance between accuracy and generation quality. And this slide directly compares the SimPO and DPO in three aspects. First, length bias, a second, reward generation alignment, and third, reward accuracy. First plot, A shows the correlation between response length and generation likelihood. DPO shows a relatively strong correlation. It's about 0.59, indicating its length bias. But in contrast, SimPO, as shown in bottom left figure, shows a much weaker correlation. It's about 0.33, meaning it generates less verbose response and it is less sensitive to output length. And in plot B, we compare real versus generation consistency using contingency tables. As you can see in DPO, about half of the examples shows misalignment between real ranking and actual generation probabilities. But for the SimPO, as you can see in the bottom, the alignment is nearly perfect. There is a clear diagonal structure. It means that if reward prefers chosen one, generation also prefers it, and vice versa. And finally, as you can see in the right, plot C shows reward accuracy, where SimPO outperforms DPO across both Mistral base and Mistral instruct. So to sum up, these results demonstrate that SimPO aligns better with the generation metric, reduces length bias, and achieves higher reward consistency compared to the DPO. And this slide compares SimPO and DPO along three dimensions: KL divergence, performance, and training efficiency. First in plot A, they track the KL divergence between the policy and reference model across training. Authors argue that even though SimPO does not include any explicit KL divergence, it still maintains a low KL divergence throughout training, especially compared to DPO. But in my opinion, I think it's not significantly, I mean, it is significantly different with DPO and SimPO, but authors argue that there is no significant difference between DPO and SimPO. Anyway, next plot in B, we compare the win rate score on alpaca 2 using different beta values. SimPO outperforms DPO on both test settings, especially at beta equals 2, where it achieves the highest win rate score. And finally, plot C shows the efficiency comparison. SimPO is faster. Training takes 60 minutes versus 73 minutes for DPO. And it also uses less peak GPU memory, 69 gigabytes versus 77 gigabytes. So overall, these results highlight that SimPO is not only simpler and reference-free, but also more efficient and competitive in performance. And now, let's see the conclusion and limitations. So first, conclusion. This study proposed SimPO, a simple and effective preference optimization algorithm that consistently outperforms existing approaches across various training setups. By aligning the reward function with the generation likelihood and introducing a target reward margin, SimPO eliminates the need for a reference model and achieves strong performance without exploiting the length bias. And finally, extensive analysis demonstrates that key designs in SimPO are crucial and validates the efficiency and effectiveness of SimPO. And the author also states that the limitation of SimPO is that SimPO needs more in-depth theoretical analysis. They state that despite the empirical success of the intuitive motivation of SimPO, a more theoretical analysis is necessary to fully understand the factors contributing to its effectiveness. So, for example, SimPO introduces an additional hyperparameter, the target reward margin gamma, which requires manual tuning. Therefore, future work could explore how to determine the optimal margin automatically and provide a more theoretical understanding of SimPO. And lastly, before I end the presentation, I would like to share some of my thoughts and experience regarding the implementation of SimPO. Currently, I'm interested in preference optimization, so I usually use the TRL library. Here, the TRL stands for the Transformer Reinforcement Learning library. Yeah. So see the left side, when we search TRL library, um, there are many fine-tuning methods, including SFT, DPO, and GRPO. Additionally, each method is accompanied by a detailed explanation and example code for easy implementation. However, SimPO is not currently included in this library. So we need to check its official GitHub repository. And as you can see, all codes are detailed descriptions are provided as well. Especially, authors have already tuned the hyperparameters for 3 representative models, Mistral, Llama, and Gemma. Therefore, we don't need to hyperparameter tuning ourselves, such as beta, gamma, and learning rate. So, using this setting, I experimented on my current research, which is the faithfulness alignment in the summarization domain. This table shows the performance comparison among the zero-shot and trained models. Here, the trained models are trained with the 3 different preference optimization methods. And here I trained the Llama 3 8 billion instruct model. The results shows that SimPO significantly outperforms the zero-shot model, even the 8 billion outperforms the 70 billion models with SimPO. And additionally, SimPO consistently outperformed DPO and KTO on 3 summarization alignment metrics. So I also can know that not only outperforms DPO in alignment performance, but it's also about 1.5 times faster in training time than the DPO. And in terms of the memory usage, while the authors argue that SimPO also saves the memory usage, but I didn't observe the significant reduction in VRAM memory usage. So, in summary, SimPO was really faster and better performance than DPO, even in my own research. So, if you are interested in preference optimization, with any alignment task and you are planning to use DPO, I highly recommend giving SimPO a try as well. Yeah. So this is the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for the clear and nice presentation and the adding your personal experience using the CPO. So, are there any questions regarding the content covered by today's talk? So I could start the initial questions in my mind. So actually, maybe you explain the details on why the SimPO authors removed the use of the reference models, but I missed the part. So what is the reason of removing the reference model from the equation in simple?
Yeah. Um, I think there are 2 reasons. The first reason is that they want to save the memory usage
Mm,
and they want to implement more faster than TPO.
mm.
And the second reason is that um, mm,
So the removal of reference model does not affect uh, 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 the bias of length bias or what other ones, the target reward margin, just for the accelerating the training time and reducing the cost uh, of the memory usage.
Yeah, and that's
Mm,
the first reason. And the second reason is that they argue that the actual preference margin when they generate are not
mm,
included the reference model's probability,
mm.
right?
Yeah,
So
yeah. Okay, then I agree with that. Eliminating the reference model would be good in terms of several aspects you mentioned. But one concern from removing the reference model is the simple entirely erase the 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 regularization part from the original optimization because it is quite critical in some scenarios to keep the trained model to be similar with the original reference models. So imagine that we try to train our model using following the multiple steps with the simple, like a training with simple in stage one, and again train the model using simple in stage two, and we can repetitively train the models multiple times using simple, then the model is naturally being far away from the reference models. Then I think there could be a risk of forgetting a lot of knowledges in the original reference model. So that's why I want to ask and just knowing some clarification on the removal of the reference models.
yeah, right. So um they experimented on the KL divergence about DPO and SimPO. So as you can see in the figure A, um the SimPO shows the large KL divergence than the DPO, right?
Mm,
So,
right.
but they argues that there are no significant difference. So it is
Mm,
reasonable large KL divergence. But
mm,
yeah, so if the model training model is too small, like
mm.
1 billion or 3 billion, yeah, as you said, it could be problem. Yeah.
Mm, mm. Yeah, that's very interesting perspective in Simple because as far as I know, only Simple erased the part for the regularization, but other optimization method, DPO, KTO, and GRPO, and other kinds of recent optimization, all of those kind of method keep the component for the regularization, right? So yeah, that is just a typical question on Simple. And my second question is regarding the contingency table calculation in page
Yeah.
21. Yeah, here. So intuitively, I can understand how to calculate the 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 uh, the y-axis is the reward score, right?
Yeah.
But the x-axis is the preference score by the trained model. Then
Yeah, yeah.
how did the reward score uh, calculate? How was the reward score calculated? I-
Yeah. Actually, in this table, the reward means the im uh the implicit reward in TPO and SimPO. It's not a external reward, and
So so the reward was calculated after completing training the model on the train data
um no, during the training.
during the training.
Yeah. So the exact reward function of TPO and SimPO is here. The
Mm,
um the reward function of DPO, implicit reward of function DPO is included the reference model, and
mm,
um, Simple's reward function is not included the reference model.
mm,
Yeah, and they set the preference in the x on the x-axis uh set as uh set to same function with the simple reward.
mm.
That's
So the
why
my
the
yeah.
yeah.
Then so I guess that. in the contingents table for x and y axis, the used training instances are exactly the same, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Then
right.
how then what is the difference between the implicit reward in training stage and the generation stage?
So um, they argued that the the probability of generation stage is only um is initial to the SimPO's reward
Hmm.
as shown in the in lower figure. So that's why it is 100% correctly matched with a reward. I mean generation stage reward and
Yeah,
training
yeah,
reward.
yeah. I see.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
that's obvious.
And,
Yeah.
yeah, in the case of the DPO, they uh in the training reward they include the reference model, right? So
Hmm.
it is
Ah.
different from the
Ah. I see. I see. I got what is your point. So the inclusion of Laplace models into the reward reward equation in DPO make this kind of discrepancy.
yeah, right.
So training metric involves the equation of the Laplace model in the reward equation, but in generation metric, the authors erase the part.
Yeah, right.
Mm, okay, I see. Yeah, thanks for the clarification on the contingency metrics. And if other students also have some questions, maybe. So yeah, we have some time to receive other questions.
I have one question on the log likelihood. So this model uses its own policies log likelihood as a reward, and the author mentioned that this will lead us to do some implicit regularization. Well, I don't fully understand why this self normalized self log likelihood reward will lead to implicit regularization without using reference model.
Oh, so you mean reference model means external reference model,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. So
Uh,
the reward doesn't require any reference model, but the
yeah,
author
yeah,
mentioned
yeah.
that this reward will lead some like implicit regularization.
Yeah, yeah. Um, the concept of DPO and its variants, like such as SimPO, uh, always argue that without the external reward model, it can the implicit reward can replace the external reward model, and it can optimize the and finally, and it can find optimize the model. Yeah,
What I'm saying is that we are scared to be too divergent away from reference model. So that's why DPO and GRPO used reference model and try to keep
yeah,
the current model not too far away from the reference model. But this
yeah.
uh, remove the reference model, but just using the current policy and not sure whether this model will not go too diverse, too far away from the original reference model.
Yeah. So, um, yeah, that is quite similar question like Professor Song. So, um, as I know, they didn't experiment about about uh the effectiveness of influence of the reference model like TPO. But they just argued that here, like as you can see in the figure A, the SimPO's KL divergence is higher than DPO, but it is reasonably high. So it's fine. Yeah, it's fine. That is just they're just experimental findings. Yeah. But I'm not sure how they ensure the risk of that kind of divergence of reference modeling. Yeah.
All right, so they empirically approve that the KL divergence between the current model and the previous model is not too big. It's bounded by some point, and
Yeah,
it is similar to DPO's KL divergence with that beta, right?
yeah, right.
But did they prove the KL divergence can be bounded? Or do they have theorem inside or?
No, there are no theoretical analysis in this paper. So in the limitation section, they mentioned that it uh need to provide it some theoretical analysis furthermore. Yeah.
Understand. Thank you.
So my impression is that SimPO is very effective, especially when the size of trained data is limited, because we don't need to train the model a lot. Just a few hundred of steps would be enough. Then the model does not be far away that much from the original model. But in the case when the trained data size it would be very large, then we have to train the model more than thousand or tens of thousand training step. Then the training model would maybe very divergent from the original reference model. So as can be seen in the table in the figure in figure A, so we can see that in the middle stage of the training step, the difference between, I mean, the KL divergence from the reference model seems to be large and large. So if we extend the training step further and further, then the divergence would be severe, I think. So I think DPO's best fit to use is only in the case when the data size is limited. So that's my just a personal opinion, but I'm not sure. Yeah. So anyway, thank you for the question and clarification. And yeah, it's the time to conclude our seminar today. So thanks for the nice presentation, Jihwan, once again. And next week, yeah, okay. So next week, the Liu from GIST will present the paper titled Discovering Latent Knowledge in Language Models Without Supervision. Okay. So thank you for attending today's seminar again. And I look forward to seeing you next week with another paper. Yeah, have a great day.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.